The V-twin was supposed to be Harley's redemption. Instead, it's their biggest scandal in decades. Engines failed, riders paid, and Harley stayed silent. If your bike ever stalled or lost power, this could be why. Stay to the end, because the leaked evidence proves Harley didn't just sell a bad engine. They sold you the test they never finished. The leak nobody was supposed to see. Harley knew their new V2 engines were failing, and they covered it up. That is not rumor or rival gossip. It is written in black ink across pages stamped confidential. A leaked set of internal engineering memos, dated barely 6 months after the launch, describes excessive oil carryover and crankcase pressurization. In plain English, the heart of the machine was choking on its own lifeblood. The company's own engineers warned that the flaw could cause oil to pool where it should not, starving vital parts of lubrication and leading to premature wear or even engine seizure. Yet instead of halting production, Harley kept building. For riders who poured their savings into these bikes, that decision feels like betrayal disguised as loyalty. The leak shows meetings where executives debated costs, not safety. One note even reads, "Monitor dealer feedback. Avoid public bulletin until pattern confirmed." The pattern was confirmed, all right, by riders stranded on the roadside with engines bleeding oil. Harley's image of rugged honesty just cracked open to reveal a culture of silence. The fallout began online, in the places Harley once ruled without question. Forums lit up with riders comparing failures, posting oil-splattered photos, and asking why official channels stayed quiet. The truth spread faster than the company could delete or deny it. What started as whispers among mechanics became a digital rebellion. The legend was in trouble, and this time the proof came from Harley's own files. But documents are one thing. What happened on the road was even harder to deny. When the legend stalled. If your Harley ever sputtered, coughed, or flatlined mid-ride, this explains it. Across the country, riders describe the same nightmare. You roll onto the highway, the V-twin growling like thunder, when suddenly the power fades. The throttle feels empty, the engine gasps, and the bike bucks beneath you as oil floods the crankcase. Some manage to coast to the shoulder, others are not so lucky. These breakdowns are not isolated accidents. They are symptoms of a deeper flaw that Harley refused to face. Imagine paying over $20,000 for freedom, only to feel it die beneath your hands. One rider from Texas said his bike sounded like a dying heart. Another from Michigan told us he was nearly rear-ended when his road glide stalled without warning at 70 miles an hour. The company once sold these bikes as indestructible symbols of independence. Now they have become ticking liabilities parked in thousands of garages. For many owners, the cost goes beyond repair bills. It cuts into pride. Owning a Harley was never just transportation. It was identity, culture, and faith in American craftsmanship. Watching that faith collapse feels personal, like discovering your favorite band lip-synced every song. Forums that once traded chrome tips now sound like therapy sessions for betrayed believers. Riders are angry, but they are also heartbroken. And that heartbreak turned to fury when they discovered Harley had already changed the design, quietly. If you've ever felt your Harley cough, stall, or fight you mid-ride, hit like right now. Drop a comment sharing what happened. Every story builds the pressure they can't ignore. The louder we get, the faster the truth spreads, and the harder it becomes for Harley to hide. The hidden redesign. Harley fixed the flaw in new bikes but kept the old owners in the dark. That single decision might define the scandal more than the defect itself. Buried deep in parts catalogs and supplier invoices, riders noticed new serial numbers for the oil pump and internal venting system, small changes that made a big difference. Mechanics realized the company had quietly introduced a redesigned component meant to prevent the same oil starvation that was crippling early engines. No recall, no public notice, just a silent substitution. To anyone outside the factory, it looked like business as usual. But inside service bays, the truth leaked out one engine at a time. Technicians whispered that Harley's new pump design relieved crank pressure better and stopped sumping altogether. The fix worked, but it came too late for thousands who had already paid the price. Instead of admitting fault, the company let older owners believe they were unlucky, or worse, careless with maintenance. That kind of corporate gaslighting cuts deeper than mechanical failure. Riders began cross-checking part numbers online, building timelines the company never wanted revealed. Within weeks, the evidence was impossible to ignore. Harley had known, had fixed, and had chosen silence. The revelation hit like an oil-slicked punch to the gut. Trust, once unbreakable, drained away. And when riders looked back through Harley's history, they realized this was not the first time the company had hidden behind chrome and nostalgia. Riders, look out for riders. Grab the gear and accessories I trust. Links in the description. Let's keep going. History repeats. We have seen this movie before, only this time it could finish the brand. 2 decades ago, Harley's twin cam engines faced eerily similar accusations. Oil leaks, bearing failures, and denials that stretched until lawsuits forced action. Back then, loyalists forgave. They believed the company had learned its lesson, modernized, and promised never again. The V2 was sold as Redemption, a cleaner, stronger evolution that would silence critics for good. Instead, it brought the ghosts back. Inside the biker community, older riders shake their heads at the déjà vu. They remember the twin-cam fiasco, the same pattern of denial and delayed recalls, the same limited service bulletin language used to dodge full responsibility. Only this time, the market has changed. Social media exposes every lie in real time, and younger riders have options. Indian and Triumph are waiting with open arms, ready to sell reliability wrapped in rebellion. Harley cannot hide behind heritage forever when its engines keep bleeding on the pavement. What hurts most is how predictable it feels. Harley, once a symbol of resilience, now reeks of arrogance. Each ignored warning erodes its myth of freedom. Yet beneath the anger, a new force grows, a demand for accountability powerful enough to shake Milwaukee. Because inside Harley's headquarters, the real story was only beginning, and it is uglier than anyone imagined. The physics of failure. This was not rider error, it was mechanical betrayal built into the block. Beneath the polished chrome, Harley's V2 engine hides a flaw so basic it defies the company's legacy of craftsmanship. The new oiling system was designed to deliver constant pressure through narrow galleries that feed the crankshaft, cam plate, and lifters. On paper, it looked elegant. In practice, it was a time bomb. When the revs climbed, pressure spikes forced oil backward through the scavenge side of the pump. Instead of returning to the tank, it pooled inside the crankcase, drowning moving parts in their own fluid. Riders call it sumping. Engineers call it a circulation collapse. Either way, it means loss of power, overheating, and early death for an engine that should have lasted a lifetime. The leaked technical notes prove Harley's own team saw it coming. Test benches showed erratic pressure curves after as little as 5,000 miles. A fix was suggested, an enlarged bypass port and stronger scavenge gear, but executives deemed the change cost prohibitive. Rather than retool, they rolled production forward and told service managers to monitor complaints. That decision turned loyal customers into unwitting test subjects. Every stall, every tow truck call, every engine teardown became unpaid research. Harley's silence was not ignorance, it was intent. They gambled that most riders would never notice the mechanical pattern or connect failures across states. But once those forum threads linked identical symptoms, the truth roared louder than any exhaust. And when engineers inside Milwaukee tried to push for a fix, they learned the tests that could have proven them right were never even completed. The test that never happened. They rushed the launch, skipped durability testing, and gambled with your life. In the scramble to hit quarterly targets, Harley shortened its long-cycle validation program from the usual 12 months to barely half that time. According to insiders, the endurance rigs were still being calibrated when marketing had already announced the V2 as the most reliable engine ever built. One former technician described management's mindset bluntly: if it starts, ships, and shines, it sells. Reliability could wait. Internal scheduling logs reveal entire phases of stress testing were cut or marked simulated. Instead of full-load endurance runs, engineers were told to rely on computer modeling. Those digital models assumed perfect assembly, fresh oil, and constant conditions. Nothing like real life on the highway. The skipped testing saved millions in the short term and cost Harley its credibility in the long term. When early field data poured in showing oil aeration and pressure drops, management dismissed it as break-in variation. The company prioritized delivery numbers over engineering warnings. Riders paid for that arrogance with blown gaskets, warped bearings, and lost confidence. What should have been Harley's proud leap into a new generation became a masterclass in corporate negligence. The machines failed because the process failed first. But negligence has a paper trail, and once it surfaced, the lawyers came running. Because when the first class action suits landed, those same skip tests turned from shortcuts into evidence. Lawyers smell blood. Now the suits are terrified, because what is in those emails could sink them. As complaints flooded regulators, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration opened a preliminary investigation. Their subpoena pulled thousands of internal communications that paint a damning picture. Executives discussing field containment, legal teams drafting language to minimize liability, and managers instructing dealers to avoid technical acknowledgement. In one exchange, an engineer wrote, "Oil return system unstable under sustained load." A manager replied, "Not actionable. Advise service channels to reassure." That line alone became headline material once court filings hit the public record. Law firms representing owners filed coordinated suits across multiple states, arguing that Harley knowingly sold defective engines and concealed the defect through deceptive warranty practices. Riders who spent years defending the brand suddenly found themselves as plaintiffs against it. Depositions exposed a pattern of cost control over safety, echoing scandals once reserved for car companies, not beloved motorcycle icons. The company's legal strategy, deny, delay, and quietly settle, only deepened mistrust. Meanwhile, consumer advocates pressed for a recall, citing safety risks from sudden loss of power. Harley responded with the vaguest of service bulletins, promising improved performance components without admitting fault. That move backfired. Regulators saw it as an attempted cover-up masquerading as customer care. What began as a mechanical failure was now a moral one, and the courtroom spotlight was unrelenting. But outside those courtrooms, another battle was brewing, not in boardrooms or law offices, but in the local shops where loyalty lives or dies. The dealer revolt. Even Harley's own techs are saying, "They lied to us too." Inside dealerships from Arizona to Maine, mechanics feel the pressure firsthand. Service bays are stacked with torn-down engines waiting on redesigned oil pumps and replacement parts that never arrive on time. Customers fill waiting rooms demanding answers. Managers repeat corporate talking points while staring at service bulletins that read like confessions. Many technicians, bound by loyalty to riders more than to Milwaukee, have started speaking out. They describe endless back orders, warranty claims rejected for improper maintenance, and training materials that quietly contradict official statements. Some have begun keeping private logs of every failure they repair, evidence they say might one day prove what the company refuses to admit. Others have walked away entirely, unwilling to keep apologizing for an engine they did not design. The rebellion is quiet but growing. When the people fixing the bikes no longer trust the people building them, the brand's foundation starts to crumble. Dealership owners face a painful choice: loyalty or honesty. They need Harley's parts but risk their reputation with every delay. Years of goodwill crumble into frustration. Lawsuits may sting, but losing trusted mechanics is fatal. As shops overflow with unfinished bikes, the deeper financial consequences finally surface. Because the fallout would not stop in the shop, it was about to hit every rider's wallet. The vanishing value. Your Harley's value just dropped by thousands, and the company will not even admit it. In garages across America, owners who once saw their bikes as heirlooms are now staring at silent machines and sinking numbers. The resale market has turned brutal. Dealers whisper about V2 contamination, a term spreading fast through auction houses and private listings. Pre-owned models fitted with the flawed V2 engines are sitting unsold for months. The once proud badge that promised freedom and American steel now carries a question mark no one wants to answer. Financial data backs up what riders already feel. Since the leak of Harley's internal documents, resale prices for recent V2-equipped models have fallen by nearly 20%. Collectors who bought limited editions as investments are panicking. The used bike sections online are filled with desperate listings. Low miles, never had an issue, serious buyers only. But the market is not buying reassurance. Buyers know that one oiling failure can turn a $20,000 motorcycle into a $10,000 liability overnight. Dealership/trade-in offers as mechanics identify early V2 engines by the burnt oil smell of failure. That scent now means lost value. Riders who paid for heritage own liabilities no bank will touch. The crash was not one model's fault. It exposed Harley's broken philosophy of production over pride. Because when the recalls started spreading, riders realized the rot ran far deeper than anyone thought. The recall ripple. This is not one bad batch. It is a manufacturing habit they cannot control. The first service bulletin sounded routine. Improved oil pump assembly for enhanced performance. Within weeks, 3 more followed. Each one quietly expanded the list of affected models. By the time the 4th notice arrived, even dealerships were confused. Sportster variants, touring bikes, and select Softail units each began showing similar symptoms of pressure loss and internal wear. Harley's internal database flagged thousands of warranty claims under oil system anomaly. Behind closed doors, engineers admitted the issue went beyond design. It was systemic. Production shortcuts meant tolerances varied wildly between engines. Some ran flawlessly, others failed catastrophically after a few thousand miles. The factory in Milwaukee had been operating under what insiders now call the Speed Directive, a mandate to meet quarterly volume targets regardless of testing delays. That culture bred inconsistency, and inconsistency built this crisis. Riders shared tear-down photos exposing identical wear on pump gears and bearings. The pattern spread online, undeniable and viral. Harley's limited recalls fooled no one. Identical engines failed worldwide. What began as a defect became an identity crisis, proof that the brand built on dependability could no longer depend on itself. And when reliability vanishes, investors start listening, because markets punish betrayal faster than riders ever could. Wall Street wobbles, even the stock market's losing faith, and that is when the suits start sweating. For decades, Harley Davidson's financial stability was its armor. It could survive style changes, economic recessions, and even cultural shifts because investors trusted its core product. But when the V2 scandal broke wide open, that armor cracked. Within 2 weeks of the leaked documents, Harley's share price dropped by double digits. Analysts began lowering forecasts, citing reputational volatility. That phrase alone was enough to trigger panic among institutional investors. The boardroom tone shifted overnight from celebration to containment. Earnings calls grew tense. Questions about warranty costs, class action exposure, and declining sales replaced discussions about brand strategy. Executives offered carefully scripted reassurances, but no one on Wall Street believed them. Financial journalists called it the most significant credibility crisis in Harley's modern history. Suppliers felt the tremors, orders slowed, contracts froze, and Harley's bond rating wobbled as cash reserves shrank under lawsuits and refunds. Online investors mocked the Harley hemorrhage, watching a legacy brand bleed value live. Once a safe dividend stock, it had become Wall Street's newest cautionary tale. But while the stock slipped, something even more dangerous was happening on the streets. Because while Harley's accountants were sweating, its rivals were already seizing the open road. It is more than business. It is a community crisis. Jobs fade, incomes vanish, and dreams built on steel begin to rust. Yet from the wreckage, riders rise, not retreating, but rebuilding together. Because when the suits destroy the name, the Brotherhood rebuilds the meaning. Rebuilding the Brotherhood. We are not walking away. We are rebuilding what they broke. In bars, garages, and rally grounds across the country, Harley riders are forming a new kind of movement. One not built around corporate slogans, but shared integrity. They are holding truth rides, public gatherings where owners tell their stories and share evidence of the engine flaws. Independent mechanics are forming alliances to offer transparent repairs and honest rebuilds at cost. For many, it is about reclaiming a legacy that belongs to the road, not the boardroom. Clubs that once existed purely for leisure now double as advocacy groups. They are drafting petitions, lobbying for manufacturing reform, and demanding protection for whistleblowers. Some are even discussing creating a rider-led cooperative brand, a new American motorcycle movement that honors Harley's spirit without its corruption. What was once a passive fan base has evolved into an organized force for accountability. Online forums once filled with exhaust debates now focus on engineering ethics. Former employees join in, teaching riders to inspect their own machines. The message spreads, "We built this culture, we can fix it." That phrase rallies a movement reclaiming pride and skill. As executives face hearings, the roar on the road returns, not corporate, but defiant. The Brotherhood rides again, determined to take back the legacy it forged. Because the suits might own the logo, but the riders own the legacy. And this time, we are not letting them ride off with it. The truth is out, and now the road belongs to us again. Harley's image may be cracked, but the spirit of its riders isn't. Subscribe and stay with this movement, because the next revelation isn't about engines, it's about justice. We built the legend. Now we're taking it back.